Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new feature of the Coursera class Approaching Music Theory, Melodic Forms and Simple Harmony. This new feature is called Further Explorations by Request. And what it is, I don't know, you're taking the course, you think, this reminds me of a piece I love, or, hey, this works as an explanation for this piece, but what about this? Take those thoughts and put it in the discussion forum Ask the Professor on the Coursera class. And once a month, I'll put up a video like this where I just talk a little bit about the pieces. And remember, music analysis, it's always imperfect, and there's many different ways to analyze things. So instead of completely analyzing each one of these tunes, I'm just going to try to point out a few things that I like about the pieces, that maybe you like about the pieces, and try to make them relevant to the material in the course as well. Let's see if we can do it. There are three pieces I want to look at. One is the Nocturne from String Quartet No. 2 by Alexander Borodin that was requested by Lori. Another one is Sicut Cervus by Palestrina, and that was requested by Liliana. And then Joyce's request, Bluesette by Toots Thielemans. I never know how to pronounce his name. Somebody help me. All right, let's dive right in. And I'm not going to play the pieces on here for a number of reasons. One, this is YouTube and it's not the cloistered environment of Coursera, so the copyright permissions issues are a little bit different. And two, you can hear these. I'll put links in the comments below to some of my favorite recordings, especially recordings that have the score as I play along. And go ahead and listen to them. Pause the video at any time, listen to the piece, click on the links, and then come back and we'll talk about it a little bit. So here is the Borodin Nocturne from his String Quartet No. 2, and it is beautiful. Alexander Borodin is responsible for my father saying, about every 5 or 6 months when I was studying to be a musician, said, you know, Borodin was a chemist and a doctor and a musician. You could do that too. You can still go to medical school. Sorry, Dad. It's maybe a little too late for that now. Anyway, he was an amateur musician, as many of the Russian composers were in the mid-1800s. It's a really special thing, and I think the fact that they were amateurs and cut off to some extent from the rich traditions of classical art music actually helped a lot of them make very interesting decisions, and it helped them write beautiful tunes, and this is no exception. It is a crazy beautiful tune, so beautiful that it was one of the tunes used in the 1950s musical Kismet, where some enterprising producer said, hey, let's write a hit show. Can we use someone else's tunes that are copyright free? Hello, Borodin? And I'll put a link in the description below to a recording of this melody used in the music Kismet. It's very amusing. And it was actually my first exposure to Borodin. Later, when I heard the string quartet, it was like, hey, they're copying this from Kismet. How did they know? I know, other way around. Anyway, if you're not familiar with this piece, do pause and take a listen to it. And now, let's take a look at the score. Here it is. First of all, orchestration matters, harmonies matter, and let's start with the melody, since we spend so much time in the Coursera class talking about melody. Let's take a look at this tune. Okay, what do you notice about this tune? What I notice about this tune is, unhelpfully, it's very pretty. Two, I think I was playing the rhythm from the musical instead of the string quartet. Oh, these habits run deep. But three, you can look at it as an organized line that goes down. In other words, A, G sharp, E, F sharp, E, B. Here's an E, F sharp. Here's a D, B, D, 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 C sharp, B, E, B. And guess where it doesn't go down to? It doesn't go down to an A. So if you wanted to destroy this melody, there's so many wonderful ways to destroy this melody, just like we did in the Coursera class. You could easily try to land the melody on A, and it wouldn't have the same circular effect. Here we go. Yeah, okay, pretty, yes, thank you. We can also get rid of that, we'll talk about it. And how can I end up on an A? I know. And then you sort of have to pick yourself up off the ground to start it again when the tune starts again right here. In other words, if you're writing a tune and you want it to be circular, consider taking away all the clear, hard landings on the tonic. In other words, if you come to an A here, it's going to be a little less in need of going somewhere. Not that you can't do it, it's just that then you might actually want to have a contrast. In other words, if you ended the melody on an A there, it's like, hey, let's do another tune. And one thing that is very typical of Russian composers of this time, including Rimsky-Korsakov, Glinka, Mussorgsky, is they are crazy repetitive. They take a melody, they find a melody that they like, they make it special, and we'll get to that in a second, and then they repeat it a million times. Have you heard Scheherazade? Yes. Guess what? It takes the same tunes over and over again, and it's a wonderful question how they get away with that. How do you get away with repeating the same tune over and over again without getting boring? And I think one of the answers to that question, and it's just one, is the quality of harmonic inflection that keeps it interesting. In other words, if there were no chromaticism here, and let's try a version of that, you might not want to go on so much. So, la 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 la. Oh, let's get rid of this A sharp. La 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 la. And I'm going to get rid of the chromaticism here in the accompaniment. La 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 la. Okay, that's nice. Maybe you can repeat it once, but not the 4, 5, 20 million times that Borodin gets away with repeating it here. So it's time to take a look at the harmonization and to see how that links up with the circularity of this descending melody that only goes down a seventh, not an octave. Check it out. Here's the first harmony. Ooh, and the cello's voiced above the harmony. How special. It is special. Cellos sound different here than violins, which would sound a little ordinary, you know? But here is the violin and the viola in a hushed accompaniment with the cello in the singingest part of its range. And yes, singingest is a word. It is a word. Another cool thing is when you have a singingest part of a range, you can sing quite softly. Therefore, cantabile, which means sung, and expressively. Okay, easy. Easy. We've seen these harmonies before in Mozart. This is, here's the tonic in the viola, the 2 and the 3. That means it's a 2 chord over the 7th. Yep, it's a B minor chord over A, and the A should resolve down to a G sharp right here. Good. Great, and that is a 5-7 chord. Okay, I didn't put a 7. Sue me. And then where you normally expect it to go is, of course, back to 1. Look where he goes. Here's the 5. And it says like, ooh, okay, I'm going to take this G sharp and this B. Ooh, A sharp and G sharp and a A sharp and a G natural, and a C sharp and an F. What is that? E. Ooh, it's a diminished chord. And when you add the F sharp here, it becomes a 5, which is an F sharp triad, F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, E. That's an F sharp 7 with the flat 9 here. And with this new leading tone, it's a secondary dominant. The A sharp is the leading tone to B minor. And it goes to 2, which is B minor here. And then, of course, you just go 2, 5, 1. Not so simple. There's one more chromatic inflection, which is beautiful. Check this out. This is an F in alto clef. Sorry. And here's an A. Ooh, that's a B, D, F, A. That's a half diminished chord, which is also part of a 2-5. It's the 2, but it's flavored with that flat 6 in A minor. In other words, this F natural is the 6th degree in A major of the key signature, but now it's flatted. And oh my goodness, we've seen this before. We've seen this in the Coursera class where Mozart finally reaches C. Remember the... when that piano concerto where he revels in the minor 4. He borrows from the minor 4. And we talked about that in the course a lot. And here's another example of it. The cool thing about this is it comes very smoothly down. Check out this line right here, the lowest line of the viola, which is essentially the lowest line of the piece because the cello's above it. So here's the G sharp, then it goes to a G natural as part of this diminished chord, flat 9, and now it goes down to the F sharp of the B minor chord, and then he says, chromatic line, I think I'll continue it. Then there's the F natural, and then it goes down to an E. How cool. And remember in the Mozart example in our Coursera class, Mozart found a chromatic line going up and said, what happens if I continue it? And Borodin's doing the exact opposite, but going down because it's the Romantic era. Chopin loves chromatic lines going down. Why all the tension going up? Just, relax. It's a nocturne. So that's something about why I think these first couple of bars really just work very well. And let's count the bars for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then repeat. Yep, it's very square, but within that squareness, as we saw in Chopin, within this very squareness, you have this harmonic inflection and this harmonic inflection as a result of the descending chromatic line, and that's super special. And we have to talk about this chord here. It's really fun. Here's an E, A, B, D. It's a 5 sus chord, which means it's a 5 chord, but without the G sharp, you're just sustaining this A right here. And, okay, it's not exactly Billy Joel, but don't go change it. Oh, sorry. Anyway, 5 sus chords are great when you want to be in a pop style that doesn't have an elaborate leading tone. I think I might have talked about that in the course, but maybe I'm just suppressing it. So anyway, let's go on for a second. The tune really repeats, and it's a very Russian sense of, this is beautiful and has this one special harmonic move, and I will now repeat it forever. I will love it and love it. And so here's our half diminished thing again. He's repeating the line, but this time he delays and stretches out. This part really emphasizes the minor, borrowed minor 4, goes down in range here. And then finally we get to hear leading tone to a 5, leading to a dominant chord. And this time it has a real live note. Can you hear that leading tone? So this cadence here is more complete. It's more final. It's more full. The small details of the cadences, as we saw in class, really matter here. We've repeated a phrase, but the second time just has a fuller cadence, and it opens up another repeat of the same melody. Really, you can do that? Yeah. If you can write a melody like this, sure you can. And this is a really lovely and unusual, very pretty orchestration, voicing of this. In other words, usually you try not to have gaps this big between melodies and accompaniment. And like anything, you say, I can't have gaps like that? I wonder what it'll do. And what it'll do is make the melody float away from the accompaniment. It seems less attached, and you'll notice when you listen, as it comes down and becomes less than an octave between the accompaniment and the melody, it seems to engage with the texture even more. Another really cool thing, as you can see, here's this descending bass line now. It's really the same thing, a nice passing 6/4. It's just much more overt now. So the reorchestration of it is helping us repeat it. And oh my God, here's a second time. I think we've heard this melody 4 times. So this time when we get to here, check this out. Wow, it's a new change right here. It's an E sharp, which is the third of a C sharp chord. Okay, C sharp's the dominant of F sharp, which is 6 in A. Great! It's a 5 of 6. And then this is 6. Oh, but guess what? F sharp goes to this chord, which is a B7 chord, and B7 is a 5 of 5. So this F sharp, hey, it's a 2 of 5. Okay, too many Roman numerals. Doesn't matter. I think what really matters is that this is another descending chromatic line that makes a certain amount of sense harmonically. In other words, here's a 5 of F sharp. Here's that F sharp, but it's over a 7th. And say F sharp isn't just a 6th of A, it's a 2 of E. Here's a 5 of E. And here's, oh, it didn't resolve properly. He's doing another chromatic trick. He's taking this extended chromatic line and doing it one further. It's a lot like Mozart while sounding completely different than Mozart. And this is beautiful because now we end up on that minor 4. And then you gradually go back to the 5 or the tonic. And then there's a change. And that's the middle section. And I don't have time to talk about the whole thing, but this middle section is also very, very cool. For one thing, he manages to modulate to F, which is a weird place to go when you're in A major. Mozart would never do that, ever. Beethoven did it, and Schubert said, hey, I like Beethoven, I can do it. And then Mikhail Glinka said, wow, Schubert's great, I'll do that too. And that really opened up these third relations, as they're called, modulating a third away. It's all over the Russian composers. Tchaikovsky does it everywhere. Rimsky-Korsakov is all about it. And so it's a very nice and affecting middle section in F. And of course, he goes to F minor for a little bit. I'm sorry, we don't have time to go through all of this. And the retransition, in other words, the transition back to A, is especially beautiful. It's this special chord called an augmented sixth chord, which I can't really talk about now. Suffice it to say that F major, the F can go down to the E, and if you make it an F7 or a D sharp can go up to the E, and then suddenly you're back in beautiful land. And of course he makes a canon out of it, because why not? The melody's floating, the harmonies are changing slowly, so if this works over this harmony, it'll also work a bar later. Just, chill out. Relax. It's beautiful. All right, let's look at Palestrina, Sicut Cervus, a very famous piece. And take a second, go down to the link in the description where there's a great recording with the score floating on by at the same time. Take a second, check it out, and then come back and we'll talk about the piece when you know what it sounds like. All right, are we back? You did listen to it, right? Or maybe you sang it 1,000,000 times in high school. Guilty. Anyway, this is something I want to talk about with the course that we didn't have time to talk about, and I debated putting into the course, but it in fact would be an entirely different course on imitative counterpoint, because most counterpoint, as I hinted, back in this era, and look, it looks a little bit like that species counterpoint I made you do. Most counterpoint is imitative. I would say 83.67%, but who's counting? Just remember, all statistics you see on YouTube are false, including that one. But take a look at what I mean by this is imitative. What I mean is this. I'm sorry, I could get rid of that little sign there. Here we go. I got the dot back. This is the tune. But don't just think of it as a tune. Think of it as the cantus firmus, so that then when this tune comes in a canonic reply, which means it just imitates the same tune, you have to write counterpoint below it, because this is fixed. Remember, cantus firmus means the firm and fixed ground that you have to write. And here's another canonic reply. So these guys below here are written counterpoint to this. And here's the fourth canonic entrance. So these guys are counterpoint above this. What imitative counterpoint gives you is a sense of motivic consistency that in turn allows you to make all sorts of flexible, stretchy, wonderful kinds of phrases. And this is a very beautiful style of music. Palestrina himself is largely regarded as the cleanest and purest practicer of this style. In fact, when Johann Fuchs, let's just pronounce his name that way, shall we? It's not how you pronounce it, but anyway, when he wrote the book on counterpoint, as it were, he was writing about what he saw in Palestrina. He was writing on the rules that he gleaned from how Palestrina wrote. And Palestrina is crazy, crazy clean. In fact, look at all the red numbers here. Those are the intervals above whatever is the lowest note at the time. Because remember, there is a tyranny of the bass. So when this note comes in, I'm writing counterpoint below, fifth octave, fifth, four. Guess what? It's passing by step on a weak beat. Almost if counterpoint was real. No, couldn't possibly be. No, counterpoint's not real. Is it? Oh, anyway, and you can see anything that's not a 3, a 5, a 6, an 8 is passing or a neighbor note on a weak beat. And you never see a 5 right next to a 5. You'll see lots of parallel thirds, but you'll never see an 8 next to an 8. Okay, this is a 5 and a 5, but the note didn't change. Don't be so pedantic. Wait, am I talking to myself? Oh, hi. Anyway, there's all sorts of other things you can see in this piece that are related to the techniques that we've seen, which is why I was thrilled when someone requested this, because it's the chance to put what we've learned into a more expansive, musical, beautiful context. Look, here's a suspension. It's kind of a Phrygian cadence. This is on a weak beat to a strong beat, goes down by step, resolves back up. It's not a leading tone. It's not a cadential formula. It's just a suspension. But this, aha, it is a cadential formula. Let me play it right from here. Here, this G is a 3 above here. And now it's a 4th above here, to say nothing of a 2nd, and this G has to resolve down to a leading tone to here. And here's something that's really cool about the Renaissance that you can't really talk about too theoretically, but it's just something very important to notice in the styles that are covered. And it's this. Cadential formulas are there to be wrapped over. They're the structure over which you drape things. There's this conceit in classical music and some romantic music that you have 5, 1. Okay, what's the next statement? Let's go over there. In the Renaissance music, a lot of the times, not always, but much of the time, there's a cadence over which you write a melody. So look, the bass here comes in one of those, yes, elided, interrupting cow cadences. It's an elided cadence. In other words, the arrival, la 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 la, it starts the main tune again. But more than that, the tenor voice and the alto voice do this lovely kind of quick following, almost a voice exchange, parallel thirds. Look, here's a voice exchange, E to C, C to E. All of those things overlap. The cadences overlap, and the middle voices continue. The bass enters with an elided cadence, and this, I think, is part of the experience of this song that makes it so beautiful. It's very clean in terms of the counterpoint, and then right when it reaches an arrival, something else has already started, and it just gives you this sense of floating timelessness. It's hard to describe it, and it's even harder to analyze it, but it's definitely something to be on the lookout for in Renaissance music. If you want to notice it, look at on YouTube any piece by Josquin, any piece by maybe Vittoria. He's probably a little not the best person, but maybe any other piece by Palestrina, and notice the overlapped cadences. If just listen for that, and you'll get this sense that the music is constantly unfolding, or there's something turning, but the fabric sort of goes straight through. It's a really beautiful thing to try. And let's go on just a little bit in this piece. Again, I can't analyze absolutely everything. I'm sorry. Here's another cadential formula with another bit of an overlap. And here is the second main theme. And look what what happens? Sorry. Whoops. Let me do this better. Here, it starts in the bass. And notice this is also a canonic entrance. The bass goes la la dee dee, and the tenor goes la la dee da da. But they're much closer in terms of time. And here's another cool thing you can notice about this piece. Palestrina, he knows the counterpoint. I mean, he didn't write the book, but it was written about him. And one thing you notice, and we saw in our counterpoint exercises, is that the only two consonances that are a step away is a fifth and a sixth. And you can reverse engineer this. And we've seen this before. In other words, if you have a long held note and you want to have a melody against it, start a fifth below, because you can always go down a sixth. And oh, by the time the sixth goes down here, hey, you're in parallel sixes. Ooh, and then this comes up. Ooh, and now here's a third, and on you go. And now this time, here's another cool thing. Palestrina is really great at knowing what his elements do. It's something that Bach was just the master of. Bach would take a theme and say, like, I see this theme. It does this, and I've already written the piece. It's so sad. I mean, beautiful. And Palestrina's a little like that too. What I mean by that is that he sees this theme and it's simple. It's just a descending two steps. Really? You're going to say that's complicated? Well, this descending 3-2-1 is part of a cadential formula, and I think we talked about this a little bit in the course. In other words, here's a 3, G, and let's just follow the bass line at the same time. It's passing down. Ooh, and look at the tenor voice too. Hey, it's a cadence. So the cadence is here, but it's not just overlapped by anything. It's overlapped by the theme, because this is going down a step, and hey, we have this down a step motion available to us in a cadential formula, which is right here. We also have this stepward motion in the theme, and so hey, let's just put the theme. I know exactly how it's going to drape over a cadential formula, and again, you get that rolling through the cadences kind of feel. It's just magical. And formally, it's also very clear. You repeat the same entrances, you get a chance. Notice that there's some dissonance throughout, but there's really very little. Palestrina is all about cleanliness. He's not about high drama, as some other people like Thomas Luis de Vittorio. Wow, high drama Renaissance. It's just taste. It's very different. Here's another Phrygian cadence. Here's another voice exchange, G to E, E to G. It works. And finally, we get one more theme, another canonic entrance, this whole and hey, you can have a canonic entrance sort of on an offbeat if we're in 2-2 here. And if this has to move down a step, what moves down a step? A suspension. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to hold this G, and the A up here is going to make the G dissonant and force this G to sing, oh yeah, this descending theme, which he wanted to sing anyway. In other words, check it out. Here's the G. Ooh, I've got to resolve down. Anyway, there's of course more to this. I just want to give you a sense of how technique overlaps with some of the expressivity. And the one last thing we'll look at is this common Renaissance ending, holding the final note of the mode in an upper voice while you have actual canonic entries below. It's almost a tick, it's a mannerism. You see this in Josquin a lot, you see it in earlier Renaissance composers. Here's the final cadence, it's a cadential formula. Look, it's a consonance above the G here. The G moves to a D, it's a 4, 3. Ooh, it's what in tonality we would call a deceptive cadence. They didn't call it that yet, just don't worry about it. And then he has, ooh, you see this in the bass? Ooh, let's do a canon. Where he does a canon between the bass and the alto. It's amazing. And the amazing thing about it is that it all exists below this ultimate cantus firmus of just one note. And there's actually sort of a whole subspecies of Renaissance music where I'm going to hold this note for 3 bars and look what I can write all around it. You'd think it's limited, but I can be very creative. And this another kind of cadential formula, which happens at the end of pieces, is very typical in the Renaissance. All right, last piece. I hope you're having fun. I love looking at these pieces and I love talking about them. And please let me know if you have any questions, either in the comments or head on over to the Coursera page and request more pieces there. Okay, let's look at this last piece, Bluesette. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful jazz tune. It's become a jazz standard. So many people cover it. It's just amazing. I'll put some links to some recordings of it. My personal favorite is one of the original ones where he's whistling. Oh my goodness. Go ahead, listen to it, come on back. All right, here it is. And the question, I think it was Joyce asked, was more about the chords than the melody, but let's look at both of them. And you have to understand something about jazz chords. We didn't talk about them very much in the course. I hope to talk about them in another one soon. And it's this. Jazz, when you see all of these little numbers, major 7, that dash means minor 7, that flat 5, here's a 7, there's a minor 7, there's a major 7. All of those are describing the colors that exist above the lowest note. In other words, a major, B flat major 7 has a 1, 3, 5 major 7, and that is not dissonant. And if you add a 9, it's also not dissonant. And if you add an E, which would be a sharp 11, it's also not dissonant. It's just, yeah, those are just various kinds of heightened colors. I'll put a link to a sheet where I talk a little bit more about this if you're interested in this to get more of a sense. But for now, let's look both at the colors and the root motion. Because one thing that this engages in is a very, very standard harmonic device. Like here's the B flat major, and then it goes to A, D, G. And I think you recognize that sound. La, 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 da, la, la. That is a 2-5-1. And here's the cool thing about jazz. 2-5 is not really two separate chords in jazz. It's a thing. These two chords are one thing. It's a 2-5. So you don't have to go, oh, A minor 7 flat 5. What's the next chord? D. Okay, what's the next chord? G minor. No. You sit here, you're in B flat, and you say, okay, I'm in B flat. Okay, where am I going to go? Hey, let's go to G minor. 2-5-1. So in other words, you're thinking in larger chord groups already. And then, hey, G minor to C7 is a 2-5 in F minor, and F minor to B flat is a 2-5 in E flat. In fact, this chord progression is an excellent example of the circle of fifths. In other words, look at the chords starting at the A. A, D, G, C, F, B flat, E flat, and then wait along. A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat. What's going on? And I think, Joyce, one of the things you're noticing, and that it's so both beautiful and perplexing, has to do with this phenomenon. In a normal circle of fifths, if you want to stay in a key, you'll have a tritone somewhere. And see if you can think this without me writing it out in notation. Let's just stick in C major. In other words, if I'm in C major, and I'm going to go down a fifth and up a fourth, and down a fifth and up a fourth, down a fifth and up a fourth. That's a circle of fifths because going up a fourth is the same as going down a fifth. And if you just go down fifths, you run out of room pretty quickly. So it's down a la 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 la. Hey, did you hear that tritone? La la, that's a diminished fifth or an augmented fourth. La 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 la. What if you want to have all perfect fifths? Well, you're not going to be in the same key because if you remember from lesson 1 of our Coursera class, things we think of as keys or anything that wants a home needs some kind of asymmetry, and a perfect circle of fifths where you're just moving in perfect fifths. Like here's a perfect fifth, here's a perfect fourth, here's a perfect fifth. La 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 la. Whoa, that's a B natural or a C flat that we just ended up on. In other words, when you have a completely symmetrical system, you're going to be pushing away from a standard sense of tonality. And of course, Toots Thielemans just kind of mixes it up. So it's like, tritone here? No, perfect fourth. Nope, I like this. Nope, perfect. Oh, perfect all the way. It's a perfect circle of fifths. What he plays with is the upper flavors, so kind of major and minor as they make sense in terms of suggesting 2 5s. But one thing that's beautiful about it is that it's a sequence, and we know what that is, and it's a sequence that is symmetrical. So how does the melody play into this? It's a sequence 2. It breaks. Now, why is the melody a sequence? Because, check it out, in a circle of fifths, as you probably know, when you go down a fifth and then up a fourth, you've actually gone down a step. So you can take that move and repeat whatever melodic fragment you want down a step. So other songs that do this are, Those Autumn Leaves, Drift by My Window, Those Autumn Leaves, Are Running Gold. And that's a circle of fifths. The tune itself goes down a step each time, and the chords change. They go down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth. It's a harmonic sequence with an attached melodic sequence. And oh my God, this is everywhere in so many different styles. Anywhere there's diatonic music, there is the circle of fifths lurking about saying, can I come out and play? I'm very friendly. I can do many different things. And, it's up to you. Use taste, as always, and a certain amount of judgment. And circle of fifths can be devious. If you want to go out of the key, just start putting in crazy circle of fifths with, perfect fifth. Okay, a tritone, but not the right one. And there's another jazz tune that does that called All the Things You Are, where you're going, whoa, here's a circle of fifths. What key are we in? Oh, we're over here. What key? And those kind of modulations are suddenly much easier to take because they're part of the circle of fifths. So here's the sequence. Blah da da ba da da ba da da ba ba da 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 la la la. Ooh, what's going on here? Why is the minor? Well, a common way to use this 2-5 entity is say, I'm on a chord, I want to go somewhere else. Here's my chord. Hey, you know what Beethoven did? He would go directly to the parallel minor. Okay, not with that voicing. And then make that the 2 of a 2, 5, 1. In other words, 2 5s are these items, and you can just sort of go instantly to another area. I'll do a 2-5 over here. I'll do a 2-5 over here. And one of the common places to go is to make the 2 the parallel minor of the chord you're just coming from. Therefore, you will go down a step. And hey, look, it's down a step, and he sequences it. Here's the parallel minor of D flat, and we're so far in flatland. Isn't this supposed to be in B flat? With this same process, parallel minor 2, we suddenly end up in C flat major. Wow. And of course, he does another melodic sequence, a different one. La da 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 la 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 la. Whew. Let's evoke the beginning upward scale of the melody. Do 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 2 5. Hey, the original key. Do da da da. Kind of cool. He goes all the way to C flat and then suddenly says, 2 flat in B flat. But I'm not going to get to B flat yet because D minor 7 is lovely. I'll have a chromatic bass going down here. You might call that a tritone sub. I'm sorry, too many theory terms. And you might have noticed I talk a little too quickly when I'm not on script because music analysis is so much fun, right? So let's recap what we know from Bluesat. And this is a little bit far out from the material in that we're dealing with jazz and haven't had a chance to really talk about jazz in the Coursera class as much as I'd like, hopefully more soon. But there are some things we learned about in the Coursera class. Sequences. Hey, sequences are cool. And if you use one sequence, maybe you can use a different sequence. And there's also something very cagey and Mozart-like, where you have an opening segment and then you sequence the back half of it. Hey, what happened to that opening segment of the melody? Here's another. Oh, here it is again in completely the wrong key. Hey, let's have a 2-5 and oh, hey, this looks just like Palestrina. I'm holding the tonic note. This is the 5th scale degree. I'm holding the cadential pitch for 4 bars. Did Toots Thielemans know Palestrina? Probably not. Anyway, that's it for now. Let me know if you have any other requests. Again, go to the Coursera class, Approaching Music Theory, Melodic Forms and Simple Harmony, and check out the discussion forums and ask the professor, and I'm happy to answer any other questions there. In the meantime, stay safe, be well, and enjoy the music.